Hey, what's up, guys? I thought I'd share with you today my epic birthday adventure. Okay, so this story starts out a little rocky. You know, when you have a big trip planned, you want everything to go smooth and perfect, and that's just not life. Life doesn't work that way most of the time. So my best friend Jen, aka my sister, and I decided to take a 4-day trip to the west side of the state of Michigan to visit Lake Michigan. I've never been there, and we wanted to go see Sleeping Bear Dunes and camp and hike and cook good food and just have a good time. So we got everything packed up in Kermit and we headed out, got on the highway, and just my luck, Kermit started making this really ridiculous squealing noise coming from the engine. So I put 2 and 2 together and kind of figured out it was like the alternator. You know, I'm not a mechanic, but I have a pretty good idea of what sounds, what things mean and what to kind of look for, and realized I need to get the heck off this highway. I didn't want to get stranded there with Jen. Poor Jen just got in the coach, and this was not a good way to start our trip. So I did some quick thinking and realized the mechanic that put my tires on last year works on like semi-trucks and big vehicles, and they told me they weren't willing to work on my coach because it's a gas vehicle. It's not usually what they do, but they take care of my tires for me. And I just thought, I'm just gonna go over there. They're mechanics. Maybe they can help me. We were right. That's right where we were. The next exit was their shop, and I didn't know what else to do. So I drove us over there, and as we're like on the exit, pulling, getting ready to turn into the road that the shop is on, Jen looks over at me and she's like, "Some guy is waving at you in this truck over here and saying something." And I, like, what the hell? I don't know. So I told her, ask him what he wants. And she said he's saying something about do I want to buy parts for the coach? It's just like, what? That's very random. And so I told her, just tell him to follow me. Just follow me, and we'll go over to the mechanic together. It was very strange, but like, sometimes you just gotta go with your gut and just play it out. So we pulled into the driveway of the mechanic shop, and this guy gets out of his truck, and he's very eccentric and energetic and unique, I guess is a good word for it. And told me he had a parts coach and asked me if I wanted to buy parts, and I was like, no, but I need your help. So he just literally took his like nice shirt off that he was wearing and into his t-shirt, and he climbed under the coach, and he was looking all over the place, and he figured out that it was the alternator. And he said pretty much like, if it is only squealing when you accelerate, and not squealing all the time, that you're fine and you could just keep going. And I didn't feel good about that. So we're going hundreds of miles on this trip, and to places where there are no mechanics and limited cell service, and I wasn't okay with that. So pretty much shook his information, said thank you very much. It was very kind of him to take the time to stop and look at it, and I told him maybe I'd pass his number along and maybe we could find people to buy parts. And he went on his way. We made it to the mechanic. We were in their driveway, and I just didn't feel confident that it was just good to go, like that guy said. So I went into this other mechanic and pretty much just pleaded with him, like, I know you won't work on this, I know you won't fix it for me, but can you just look and tell me what's wrong? Is it the alternator? And he's like, yeah, pull it through, no problem, I'll look at it for you. I get in there, and he's clunking around and looking, and sure enough, he comes up and said pretty much the same thing. Your alternator's really rusty, your alternator belt looks tight, you should be good to go, it's just gonna squeak. So, 2 people have told me the same thing. One is a mechanic, and that's what he does for his job, and I just had to be like, alright, let's go, we're gonna go. So we take off on the highway. I'm trying not to panic, and you know, like, I want to have a good time. I want us to have a good time, and so trying to calm down and realize, okay, this is just gonna make a squeaky noise, and it's not gonna blow up, and let's just hope and pray we get where we need to go. The rest of our drive up to Muskegon State Park Campground was great. We had a great time. Everything went smoothly, no problems. We got up to the campground. I have some photos that I'll poke in here and show you. We walked out to the beach, to the beach of Lake Michigan, which was the very first time I've ever been there, and it was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. I was just stunned by the beauty, the sand. It looked just like an ocean. It was crazy. I was so impressed. We decided to walk down the like all these stairs down to the beach. We wanted to watch the sunset. And people were warning us on the way down that there was flies, and the flies were really bad. And we're like, yeah, okay, whatever. It was horrendous. They were horrendous. There was these black flies, which we found out they were called, I don't remember what they were called. Some kind of fly that, like, usually follows fishing boats, and if they can't find fishing boats to, like, eat the dead fish and stuff, they find other things to land on. And man, they were landing on us. They bite. They sucked. I was so pissed. They were so gross. There were, like, billions of them all over us. So we walked really fast. I put my feet in the water, but we did not stick around. It was really bad. They were everywhere. So it was worth being able to watch the sunset, though. It was absolutely gorgeous. We went back to our campsite, we made dinner, had a couple drinks. Jen decided she was gonna sleep in my tent outside. Bears, no. I have one of those tents that has the rain fly on the top and the bug net so you can sleep inside it. I really want to do tent camping, but I am not brave enough, and this girl decided she was gonna sleep in my tent. She did it! She was not a bear burrito. No fuzzy bear ate her. I didn't have to come rescue her. There was no screaming. She had a good time. She said, you know, she didn't sleep really great, but she slept pretty good. So, I was proud of her. It was pretty cool. next morning we got up and got ready and packed up and got ready to leave. We were going to head to our next campsite. Started Kermit and it just wasn't running right. Let it run for a while and I was just, something wasn't right. So I decided I would just take it for a little spin around the campground to see, you know, if it cleared up or what was up. And it kept stalling. Yeah, I just kept stalling out and I was getting really freaked out and trying not to panic because I just, you know, what good is that going to do first? And also trying to have a good time here. So, I opened up the engine hatch in the coach, on the floor between the cockpit seats. There's a hatch and you can access the engine there. And I pulled off the air filter and I looked and I saw something that I remember so many other coach owners telling me to be careful about. There was fuel puddled around the carburetor. And I remember people talking about how it's not safe. It can cause a fire. Like, you have to be really careful at that point. So I took a breath and took a minute and decided I needed to call for help because I don't know what to do. I've never had that happen and I don't have the skills to try to figure that out. So I called one of the other coach owners. His name is Jeff. He's the one that had came out and fixed my water pump for me. And he's done a lot of work on the coach for me in the past. And so I know he knows what he's doing and he knows my coach. And I called him for help, and thank goodness he answered the phone. So he said, one of the first things he said to me was, "Do you have a fire extinguisher?" And I was like, "Oh hell, like I don't want to do this. I don't want shit to catch on fire today. Can we just not have that happen?" But you know, yes, I have a fire extinguisher, and he told me to go in and try turning it over. Well, I soaked up the fuel that was around the carburetor with paper towels and we tried to start it and no fire, thank God, but it just wasn't running right. And so tried a couple different things and got it running, and he told me to go take it for a spin, and sure enough it just kept trying to stall. And so, he said, you know, there's not much more I can do for you over the phone, but happened to know that this great couple in Grand Rapids, which was like 45 minutes from where we were also coach owners, and he said, you know, Merle is his name, is a mechanic, or is a retired mechanic, and you, should call him and see if he could come over and look at it. So I called him, and sure enough, he answered the phone too. You know, the great thing about this day was that stuff didn't go as planned, which I've learned in life. Things just don't go as planned, and I need to get that out of my head, that it's an expectation. And so, but things lined up to make this day work, which is what's important. Merle answered the phone. He said, you know what? I'm working on a paint project right now, but I'm in between coats, and I can just drop everything and come out and take a look at it for you. And I was like, what? How nice is that? So sure enough, in an hour, he was there. He and his wife came out, and he went into the carburetor, and he made some adjustments. He changed out the fuel filter. He also said that the fuel filter was leaking, and that's why there was fuel around the carburetor. He repaired that. He did some tune-ups. And then he looked at the alternator, because I mentioned that. And he said, your belt is way too loose. And I was just like, everybody else said the alternator belt was fine. And he informed me that because of the size of the engine, that and like the amount of weight that this thing is pulling, it needs to be tighter than most people think it is. So he also adjusted the alternator belt, and sure enough, the squeak was gone. He totally took care of it for me. and got us all packed up. He was there a couple hours, got everything running, and I took it for a test drive, good to go. And you know, the great thing it was the day before my birthday. This man wouldn't take a dime for helping me. I offered to pay him, like, what can I do for you? Nothing. He did it as a kindness of his heart, and I so appreciate that. Merle, if you happen to be watching this, thank you. We decided it was later in the afternoon by the time everything was fixed, and so instead of packing up and leaving to our next destination, we decided to spend another night at the state park, which turned out great. We had a good time, cooked more food, and just enjoyed. We went back down to the beach with flies. They weren't as bad. They weren't as bad as the day before. Still gross. But we found a really cool pergola that somebody had built out of beechwood, which or driftwood, not beechwood. I have some photos of that too I'll throw in there. And we sat under the pergola on this little log and we watched the sunset. We video chatted with my dad so that he could see the sunset there. It was great. We had a great night. And you know what? I have to look at it as that's what was supposed to happen. We weren't supposed to move on that day. We were supposed to be able to go out and enjoy another sunset and sit on the beach and have a good time. So I really, really enjoyed myself. The next morning, we packed up and left Muskegon State Park, and we headed towards Sleeping Bear Dunes. My navigator, Jen, took us to this epic place to hike. It's called the Empire Bluff Trail. So this trail was considered moderate, and it wasn't an easy one for me. I'm just a very, very beginner hiker. And so we hoofed it up the hill, up this backside of the sand dune. So it's like through the forest, but you were constantly climbing up to the top of this lookout. And when we got to the top, you started seeing more and more sand, and like the trail winded over these bridges and things, and all of a sudden it just opened up to this beautiful, beautiful view of Sleeping Bear Dunes in Lake Michigan. It was absolutely gorgeous. Here's some photos and videos of our hike up the trail. After our hike, we were completely starving, and so Navigator Jen took us to this really cool brewery called Ludington Bay Brewery. I'll put their link to their website down below in the description if you want to check it out sometime. We got some drinks, and we went absolutely nuts on the food. It was great, you know, but it's a birthday trip, and that's what you're supposed to do for your birthday, right? Live it up. We got this pizza. It was called Kind of a Big Dill, like the plant. and it had chicken and ranch and pickles on it. It was so good. I was in the pickle mood, and it really it was spectacular. And then we got these crazy boneless wings that were on a dry ranch rub. So they took like ranch seasoning and put on the fried wings, and holy crap, it was like crack. It was crazy. And you dip it in homemade ranch. I was all about the ranch, and it did not disappoint at all. After we left the brewery, we headed to Pines Point Campground, which is part of the Manistee National Forest. When we got there, it was raining. So, I had never made a fire in the rain before, and it was a real challenge. But I stacked the wood up and made like a base layer, and then put the fire, built the actual fire on top of that, and it worked really well. It took a little patience, but it worked. Next morning we got up, and it had been raining most of the night, and I really wanted cinnamon rolls for my birthday treat. So I got up and worked really hard, to make a fire in the rain. I did that stacked wood where I made a platform with the dry wood and then made the fire on top of it, and it finally worked, but it was hard. I didn't have anything for kindling. I had run out, and we were using fat wood before, but I ran out of that too. So it was a good time, and it was a challenge, but worth the wait for the cinnamon rolls because they were amazing. After we had our coffee and a sugar high, we packed up and headed out on our next adventure. after our hike, we were starving, of course, and Jen took us to one last restaurant and brewery. It's in Hemlock, Michigan. It's called the Maple Grill. A farm-to-table local restaurant. Everything comes from right in the area, and it was awesome. I got a patty melt and baked beans and butternut squash, and for an appetizer I got fire roasted chestnuts, and they were really delicious. I haven't had those since I was a kid. I think this was actually the hardest video I've had to make. Putting all the pieces together in order to tell a story with the narration is a lot of work sometimes. So I really hope you enjoyed it, and I just really want to say thank you to Jen for taking me on this great adventure for my birthday. It was so much fun, and she just rolled with the punches, and we made it work, and we really enjoyed ourselves. And I also want to say thank you to her for some of the video and photos that she took that are in this videos. I have some new Wanda videos coming out next week, and a couple of local adventures, cool nature places I found to explore. So I hope you enjoy them, and I'll talk to you soon.